Hey, everybody. It's today. You know what that means. It's time for, yes, another episode of Sarcastic Distractions. And with us, as always, is the Gentleman Society of Podcasting. Myself, Harvey. My heterosexual life mate, David.
Hello.
Yeah. And the ever-loving AJ.
This guy.
That's right.
And
Howdy.
Today, we are talking about the most powerful drug in the world. And that is the power of nostalgia.
I thought it was opium.
Stop.
Well,
Wait.
yeah, well,
I guess opium could be nostalgic, but
could be.
you're right. You're
You
right.
could be nostalgic about opium. I mean, that's a thing. Sure.
I don't think we should, but nonetheless,
That's good things, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I want to take an opportunity today to talk about how nostalgia has affected our lives and just how seeped into everyday life it really is. A couple of reference points for our watchers out there. There's a really great the YouTube channel that we pay attention to called Wisecrack. Shout out to Wisecrack. They do lots of really great episodes on philosophies and pop culture and things like that. And they've done a few videos that we'll link to our thing on the philosophies of nostalgia and whatnot. So, yeah. So, what are we talking about when we define nostalgia? Like, what do you guys think about when you think of that word?
Stuff that makes you happy from when you were a kid.
Okay.
Sitting there chit-chatting with somebody, often, and again, this is my thought, is it's always somebody's brought up a memory, like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of remember that. Yeah, I remember us doing that, having fun. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I would say the same thing for me. Nostalgia is the things I cling to from my past, the things that I really love. Like a great example, back in the day when you could still smoke cigarettes anywhere, but indoors, I get nostalgic often actually of Dave and I and our bunch of friends, and when I smoked with AJ too, hanging out in coffee shops and just
The
hanging
bars.
out. Yeah, and
Let's
the
be
bars.
honest.
But in the bars, yeah, for sure.
If we're going to get nostalgic, I still remember us sitting there when they changed the law, actually in the bar, we're having a smoke.
We're smoking it. Oh no, it's
And that is nostalgia.
there you go. There's
Yeah, we used to sit in A&W
for sure.
and drink coffee all day.
No,
Nice.
We were the reason why they started charging 50 cents for refills.
refills.
You were the
yeah.
guys?
Well, not
Wow.
here,
Oh,
Yeah.
in an undisclosed location.
right?
So we're not going to wax too much poetic on what nostalgia is because I think we all get a pretty good idea. But I definitely want to talk about the shit we get nostalgic for, right? Like,
Oh.
yeah, like it's crazy to think like watching the stuff that I watch now, how much is all based in nostalgia. Like, look at our podcast for a second. Like, we literally have the last episode or one of our episodes, we went on about Star Wars. All because we're nostalgic and have been fans for so long. So our podcast is already...
And it was the best 3 Star Wars.
It was the best.
Yes, obviously.
We don't need to mention those that do not need to be
Yeah,
mentioned.
they know.
Does
They know.
see? My question is does nostalgia revolve around who makes the money now, like age demographic?
Great
right?
question. Yeah. I mean, you would... Well, I would say now it's prevalent for our age, and I think it's very seeped into the whole... toy to advertisement thing. Like, perfect example, case in point, Mr. Optimus Prime hanging out there. Speaking of nostalgia,
Well, that's a form of nostalgia.
that is a form. Yeah, absolutely. It's not
Yeah.
the only thing.
No, because like even like my kids, they'll sit there sometimes. It's more. I've heard it out of my son, where it's like, Dad, you remember the time, and fill in the gap here, and he gets like, oh yeah, I remember. We should do that again. All right, we can do that again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a
Tobogganing, going
Yeah.
outside.
Okay.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
my daughter was all about, remember we used to go to the park? Yeah, you want to go? No.
No.
So maybe nostalgia are like anchor points too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of your life, right? To
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like I said, times that made you feel happy.
generally,
Right?
yeah.
Like, do
yeah.
you get nostalgic over that time that you got punched in the nose, or
Yeah, no.
Well,
Well,
up in the school?
actually,
But is that nostalgia or is that trauma?
it's one of those funny things. And again, it's, to a certain extent, like I do remember actually twice getting punched in the nose. The first time, yeah, I'll get nostalgic about that when I got punched in the face by some guy who punched me in the face quite well.
what a dick.
Yeah. The second time was I was being a jerk, and a lovely young lady, I was young too, she punched me in the face, and yeah. You know what? I get nostalgic about that. I got taught the
Actually,
lesson.
you know what? I do too. I was thinking about the time I got punched in the face,
Yeah.
and I was at a bar, and I said, we were coming into a bar, and these people were leaving, and I thought I had known one of the people that were leaving, and I made a comment to the other person, and apparently I did not know those people.
Oh,
So they let me know, and I got a good wallop on the outside. And yeah, it sucked. It sucked at the time.
Yeah, it sucks.
But, you know, it was also a great night at the bar, and I'm now nostalgic about it. So
Well, that's what I mean. And again, yeah, it's that happy nostalgic. You know,
Exactly.
I remember that silly time where I was acting like an idiot, and I got taught a lesson.
So
I
much
guess I
fun.
was thinking more of like, that's nice.
Well, there are
Kind
those
of
two.
feeling, right?
Yeah, they're there too.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, is nostalgia, is it an actual fact of evidence, or is it just like a kind of nice, rosy, emotional attachment?
Warm fuzzy.
Oh
Yeah, right?
It's your perspective on that.
Of the
It's,
situation, right?
Okay, yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
could be subjective, right?
I think it has to be based in that reality to a certain extent, but it's always going to be your perception in that happy, beautiful.
It's true. That's
Yeah.
why people like get nostalgic over like shitty exes and, you know, and people that were not good in their life, but they're like, oh no, yeah, I want to go back to that time because it represented blah blah blah. Something
Well,
like
they
Okay,
think of the
okay.
positive.
right, exactly.
I gotcha.
So, you know, so I think that's maybe it. You remember what things were versus, you know, what they actually were.
Yeah, and at least for me personally, again, there's the memory of it, and again, I don't know if this actually goes in the definition, but to me, nostalgia is really about having that memory with somebody else.
Yeah.
Like generally, at least for myself, it's, you know, I rarely just sit back and start thinking of the past. But that being said, I will have moments where I'm like, oh, hey, wife, you know, remember that time? Or hey, child, remember that time? I do it too.
Yeah.
Hey, buddies, guess you remember that time we went out
Oh man.
and actually were able to drink about the time when I stabbed myself in the hand with a piece
Oh,
of
yeah.
glass accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a stranger came on by, helped me out, and I get nostalgic.
I
There
get-
are nice people.
Dave, I get nostalgic every time I think of how many times you fucking injured yourself.
Oh yeah, it is one of those things. We could do an episode just on that.
The look on your face when you lit your head on fire was just it's priceless.
Yes, please, let's do an episode. of it. I need to hear these stories.
And then we went and played video games right
I know.
I'm
afterwards.
sure I'll have many questions.
It's the first time I ever saw him speechless. Well, anyways, yeah, we will definitely have an episode where we just talk about Dave's injuries, and maybe two. We can maybe turn that into a series. So,
I've done quite a bit.
Sure have,
Getting
yeah.
nostalgic now.
Speaking of nostalgia, exactly. So, nostalgia, I mean, is prevalent everywhere, but like we've kind of touched upon already, it's definitely being used to advertise to us and,
Oh, yeah.
and used in pop culture. Like now, it's just it's subverted to the point where it's just woven into the fabric of our entertainment.
Mhm.
Like I was thinking about that with music, and you know, sometimes you'll hear a song you haven't heard however long, and boom, you're crying or you're instantly emotionally engaged,
Okay, yeah.
and it's all because of something you dealt with in the past, right? And I think that's an interesting mental state to be in. Like, can you guys think of any songs or any pieces that really just take you right into the past?
Sometimes I it's one of those things, at least for me personally. Could I give you a song? No, unfortunately, no. But when I'm sitting there, and at least for myself, there's times I hear that song, but I also need to be in that kind of moment to relive it to a certain extent.
Okay,
You know,
For some reason, any song they played at a high school dance,
yeah,
like "Smells Like Teen Spirit"
sure.
or "Lightning Crashes"
Or I was thinking,
"Stairway to Heaven" or
Yeah.
"November Rain"
Yeah.
or kind of
Yeah.
just.
or what about
transports
"Steal
you
My
back to-
Sunshine" by Len?
No, that takes me back to one of the worst
Music
Edge
videos.
fests
Edgefest.
I've ever saw.
nostalgia.
The only thing good about that Edge Fest, well, not good. The only thing interesting about that Edge Fest was I saw Courtney Love's boob.
That's not
But-
okay. All right.
interesting.
Like I said,
I, was
not good.
I thought you were
interesting.
going like going somewhat good with that, but no, that's not
But
good.
no, that was
That's
I'd probably
something.
say okay. It brings me back to the worst Edge Fest I'd ever been to.
Well, let's go on to that
Wow.
for a second because many people that are watching or listening do not know what Edgefest is. Edgefest, if you don't know, was a giant concert that they would throw on every year. Canadian concert. I think it was
Yep.
all
I
Canadian.
think it was all Canadian. Yeah.
Edge 102.
No,
Yeah.
No, it wasn't all
no,
Canadian.
that was
No,
one
no.
of the first places I saw Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But it would tour
but-
around Canada.
Canada.
right,
yeah.
right,
That's
right,
what it was.
That's right.
Yeah,
Very
it
much
turned
like
into
the
Somersault,
Yeah, it did turn into some very much
Yeah.
like the Vans Warped Tour or something along those lines.
Ozfest, or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
So these giant concerts we'd have, and unfortunately, this was a poor moment.
Yeah.
As a song.
Of which you get nostalgic about.
Exactly right. See, again, I don't. Yeah, I guess there's no other word for it. Like, is there anti nostalgic?
No, I don't think nostalgia is like positive or negative.
Okay,
It's just a
okay.
word,
So I guess
right?
that should have been a question. Then,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, that's why we're trying to define it, right? We're trying
Yeah,
to
at least
understand
for
it
me,
a
it's
bit.
more of that. It doesn't have to be, at least in my mind, it doesn't have to be positive, but it's something you think about with that context, a purpose.
Yeah.
Like there's a reasoning.
Like for
Right.
me, like I use nostalgia because I the band Tool, who I'm a big fan of. It took me like 3 chances to see them, and each chance was a nostalgic moment that sucked. Like it was like, oh, I can't believe this happened to me. But it led to the 3rd time, which was an amazing experience. It was like, oh wow, and because those 2 times sucked so bad, and I think it made the 3rd time way better. Right, so
Okay.
it's kind of like a nostalgic series of events that happen over.
Well, the group
get
of them
that.
make it more nostalgic for you. It's one of those, not only did I get to see this great, wonderful concert,
Right.
but there are these 2 other effing times where I did not get there, and here's
Yeah.
the reasoning, and
it just generates that.
they get the
story.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I get that.
yeah. So good, bad, otherwise,
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Bandman. Do you ever get nostalgic about past bandmates?
I don't know if I'd say past. Well, yeah, to a degree. It depends. It depends, I guess, on the situation. Well, no, again, it doesn't. I guess doesn't depend on the situation, be it negative or positive. So yeah, there's some times where it's like, yeah, fuck that guy. But then, or you think back to the first band I was ever in.
Yeah.
Still love all those dudes.
Yeah,
Right. Talk to them here and there and whatnot.
it's cool.
So yeah, definitely.
It's the memory of those moments, good and bad in my mind.
Sure.
Yep.
Again, my brain's now processing like the
The
positive and negative verses, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, well, there's no, yeah. So
Well, nostalgia can be used as a power for good and a power for evil, right? I mean, I'm a giant Transformers fan. You're a giant Batman fan, and both those franchises got our money because of the nostalgia they keep bringing in, right?
I definitely say Funko got my money because
Oh,
of that.
Funko. Well, case in point, those guys are the biggest capitalizers of nostalgia.
Right?
Funko Pop is a franchise and a empire all in
Yeah.
itself, encapsulating all.
It I guess, yeah, it greases its wheels on nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
And it banks on people my age or your age to probably pay most of the bills. Yeah, they put out, the new thing and the new thing so the kids will buy it. But I'd say they have more old stuff, stuff
Then
from
they
the
go and
90s.
release things from the 80s, 60s sort of time period.
There you go. There you go. Speaking of, mentioned previously, is yes, I love Transformers. How in the world nobody loves giant robots transforming into other things? I'll never know. I don't understand it. It's like the greatest thing is if like Rubik's Cube came to life.
You're
That's
right.
what-
GoBots are amazing.
Go shut.
I was going to say,
Don't even-
Dave likes GoBots.
Don't even start with the GoBots nonsense. Don't even.
I don't know. We might have to talk about that
So
one
we
day.
could do a whole episode of Transformers. Anyways, recently, this is where I've gotten bitten by the nostalgia bug. Hasbro has released a Transformers Studio Series line called Studio Series 86, which is basically the Transformers movie from 1986, best Transformers movie of all time.
Yes.
And they're basically releasing carbon copies of those in action figure form, and like it's, I can't handle it. Like it's so, I feel so stupid knowing full well they're just doing it to get my money, but I'd just take it. Just
Oh, yeah,
okay.
the targeting
sure.
our
I've looked
generation.
I've looked them up too.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
they're
for
great.
sure.
Like I mean, the new Rodimus. Anyways, whatever. So I think it's just crazy to think like even though I'm very aware of what is happening, I'm like, I'm still succumbing. I'm like, whatever.
Still going to
It's
get
a shut up and take my money situation, right?
Exactly. It's like, let's not talk about why I'm giving you money. Just give me my product.
I was extremely excited when they re-released
Just-
Animaniacs.
Yes, speaking of that,
Incredibly
let's talk
excited.
about that,
Um,
which is an interesting project considering, yes, timeless, but also very timely with when it was released, right?
I think they were able to do it because of the content, right?
Sure.
They were doing what The Simpsons and South Park did in being more topical.
Yeah.
So things that were happening at that time, which were relevant, say in the 90s, you can still make jokes about what's relevant now in the 2010s
That's true.
and up, right?
Yeah, because they've kind of memed into each other, right? I mean, all that stuff is very meme worthy.
Yes.
So I have a silly question to ask. Has
Sure.
it actually been released already?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they're-
I haven't watched all of it, but I watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes.
20 episodes or something
Think so,
they,
yeah.
they got. And
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they poke fun at Donald Trump and
I'll have
and
to
all that
check
fun
this out.
stuff.
I remember
Yeah, that's really
Animax.
hard to do. He's such a
Oh, it's impossible.
he's
Bulletproof.
such a he's such
He's
a serious
bulletproof.
guy. Yeah,
Having
But,
that happen in Animaniacs, so that is
Ah,
interesting.
that is interesting.
Well, that's the one thing I loved, and I think I loved that about Animaniacs when they originally came out. Is there was something for kids, the whole wacky nonsense.
Yeah.
Which I mean, adults like that too. I like the absurd. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was also the behind those jokes, adults could get into it.
I have to go rewatch that because in my mind it's all just a kids thing.
No,
really?
no.
Oh no! First
and now
off,
they've kind of put the adult thing
let's
a little more in the
Right,
forefront
right.
because we're
It's
the
our
ones
generation.
watching
Exactly,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Dave, let me tell you, you want a good time. You need to pack yourself a vape. You sit on the couch and just rewatch Animaniacs.
Oh yeah.
You will not be disappointed. Nostalgia and
It's not funny.
Animaniacs. Like I think that shows you how much it's affected our lives. When I don't want to say little, but little shows like Animaniacs can have a new light because of the power of nostalgia. Like if that show wasn't a big deal back then, they would never.
It wouldn't even have been a
thought,
thought,
right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it was a big deal because again, and now you get into that whole different timings of things. Like back then, it was common to watch the telly. Like that's what you
true.
did.
That's what you did, yeah.
My children nowadays, they don't watch television.
No.
But they'll sit there and watch, YouTube videos. They'll do the swipey thing. Like that's what they do.
But
So
that's sorry, go
Your
ahead.
kids are into video games, right?
My son is.
So what your son?
Yeah.
So do we think that because this generation's more of the digital generation, instead of rebooting a cartoon, will they reboot his favorite video game?
I could see that
You
happening.
know, like Fortnite in 20 years or
I
something
mean,
like
I'm
that? Or,
Yeah.
pretty
I'm not
sure it's
what it is.
already
Fortnite.
happening.
That's true. That's yeah.
Think of
You've
how
got-
many games they remade and
You've got the Crash
remastered.
Bandicoots and
Everything,
whatnot.
really.
And
Yeah. Sony's they're the kings of that. They have
Final Fantasy VII remake.
remarketed the shit.
Oh
out of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
Even on Xbox. I've
I was
seen
playing
Yeah,
that
that's
today,
right.
actually. That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
It's a pretty great game. Yeah,
pretty
It's a lot of
funky.
fun. Speaking of YouTube, though, I think that's very interesting that you brought up that your kids into YouTube. I'm not sure Max is on his way to the same whatever.
He's
But
more
here's
of a Netflix kid.
Here's the thing. Like that was a weird thing that I saw was seeing kids get nostalgic over YouTube videos,
Mhm.
which I'm like, what? You get like over this person? But then I caught myself doing it where I was like, oh yeah, I was like, that video was, oh wow, now I'm doing the same thing.
Oh yeah,
I
both
would-
my kids.
I say I get nostalgic over YouTube in a sense of not necessarily the YouTubers,
Hmm.
but like Dramatic Gopher. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Right? I almost peed myself laughing the first time I ever saw that, or
For sure.
Panda sneezing. all those ones in that South Park episode where they go get their
Chocolate
internet
Rain,
monies.
yeah.
Right? Yeah, like Chocolate Rain guy, Tron guy, Chris
What, blood in the
Crocker.
butt?
Leave Britney alone. Just leave her alone.
And then if you're gonna talk about nostalgia, we just touched on South Park. There you go. They're the kings of bringing nostalgia in and working off of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and what they do is one thing. One of the videos that we'll link up was talking about is how creators or whatever you want to call them will take nostalgia and retool it for today's generation. And one of the great examples they used was Planet of the Apes. When Planet of the Apes was a big deal back in the day, that was more about what do they say?
That was like about nuclear war. and
Yeah,
whatnot.
exactly.
And then
But now
when
it's-
Tim Burton did it, that was about scratching your head.
yeah. So, well, who did that? I can't remember who did the new ones. Who's the director?
Tim Burton did the first one.
Yeah. I'm talking
But
about
I
the
can't
newer
remember.
ones.
Like,
Oh, I have no idea. either.
Drawing
yeah,
blanks.
I didn't honestly watch the other ones.
They're
'cause-
great. They're fantastic.
Is it better than the first one,
Million times better.
where you don't
The-
know what the hell's going on by the end?
They're great, but it's all about Outbreak. It's all about and technology and what happens when technology becomes dominant. So they still have the same nostalgia coming from the Planet of the Apes franchise with new technology and things like that, and they shifted the mentality of like the whole nuclear blah blah blah
Right.
to something that is more relatable today.
Genetic-y type
They
stuff.
kind
probably.
of they kind of did that with the Terminator series too.
They did, yeah,
in a way, right?
absolutely,
Like
yeah.
the first one. The second
Android-y.
one was more about end of the world, nuclear war, Judgment
Yes,
Day kind of thing.
yeah.
But then it felt like they almost dropped that idea in a way
the later
later on.
ones.
They sprinkled it in because it was still part of the story, but it was more of the machines taking over.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
as
that was-
opposed to one machine taking over.
Right.
Sure, they doubled down on the whole war.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And this is nostalgia as we just think back to watching those lovely movies.
I know. Oh man, tell me. It's
about it.
interesting
Oh, yeah.
for me to see how creators will use nostalgia as a vehicle. So it's not like a subverted thing. It's whatever. Like Cobra Kai is a great example, but more so, I would say Stranger Things. Like if you
Oh yeah,
Stranger Things.
Definitely.
Stranger Things. Like it's they're using nostalgia as a way to tell you the story they want to tell. Which I'm trying to think of another example of that. I can't think of anybody that's done that before. I mean, you see homages and you see like
again, I think
elements, but
I think it depends on like things will go into sequels.
right.
For instance, I was very excited to watch the Coming to America, the sequel to Coming to America,
Is it good?
and
Yeah,
it
is it
seems like hold on.
Okay, sorry.
It seems like that's what they're doing is they're
Yeah.
playing on the nostalgia of the original, right,
Yeah, that is true.
to tell the story of this new story. And I can't say it was as good as the original, but it wasn't terrible.
I enjoyed it.
It wasn't. It had funny parts. Wesley Snipes is, oh man, he's good.
Nice. All right.
He's definitely worth putting in a movie to.
I mean,
Let's talk about Cobra Kai.
Oh.
Yes.
Have you seen this Cobra Kai yet?
I have not.
Son of a.
There's going to be an episode where we just go out and fight Dave.
I know. Let's just go fight Dave. We'll give him crane kicks and then he'll
Right?
watch Cobra
There
Kai.
is
leg.
only
Yeah.
two
Like
Karate Kids. That is it. There is the first one, and I always enjoyed the second one as well, the movies.
I like the third one too.
I didn't mind the first three. And
Yeah.
then when they got to the Hilary Swank Karate Kid, that
Yeah,
kinda-
that was
I didn't like the remake. Didn't like.
I'll be
Well,
honest.
the remake was
I
yeah.
turned it off after the first scene. I couldn't watch it. I was like,
The
and it
remake-y?
sucks. Yeah, the remake.
Yeah.
It's because like I love Jackie Chan. Who doesn't love Jackie Chan?
Oh, the
It's
Jackie
amazing.
Chans.
But like, I just couldn't. I just couldn't.
I
do
haven't
it.
seen
It just
so.
felt so.
I mean, it wasn't a
forced.
Jackie Chan movie
No, it
per
wasn't.
se, right? He was kind of playing sidecar to
But
Jaden Smith's character.
you know what made the Karate Kid so nostalgic and so good is, in my opinion, it was the way it was shot and the way the story was told. It felt very natural. It felt very organic. Like you didn't feel like anything was, forced. It just felt like, oh yeah, this kid's, grown up in, this weird spot. He's fish out of water and he finds his old, rickety dude who's going to teach him martial
What
arts.
even
And then
happened in the third one? I'm trying to
that was
remember.
I don't remember.
Not
That was the
Japan.
bonsai shop
Yeah,
one.
the bonsai
that was
shop
the
one,
bonsai
yeah,
shop
yeah.
one. Because the second one they go to Japan.
they go to Japan and then
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I love the third one. I know you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I love the villain. And then they bring back I can't remember his name now. Oh, Johnny's.
Oh,
Martin Kreese.
Yeah, Martin Grease. I was like, what the hell? Like that blew my mind as a kid. I thought it was huge.
I'm not saying I just my preference 1 and 2. But either way,
So Cobra Kai, Dave, for the uninitiated, which
I
is
am
Dave.
aware of kind of what it's about.
All right. So so
the
basically
two of them
Cobra Kai
reading
is
up.
the continuing adventures of Johnny, who I guess did not fare well after his karate tournaments as a kid. And he's living life, and now he gets to see Danielson living it up as a successful car salesman. And then that's kind of your setup.
I did watch the first episode,
Okay.
so I knew that much.
Okay. That's good.
I'm hoping to see some sort of, as opposed to a flashback, more of a nod to Miyagi. Like,
Yeah.
does he
Me
have
too,
a
yeah.
daughter or a relative or something? I don't know. I feel like it's got everything but Miyagi spirit to it.
And Miyagi was the one that made those
Right.
films for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh yeah, you need a Miyagi in those films.
You need
But I like the way they're telling the story. It's one of those who's the good guy, who's the bad guy scenarios, right? Like, is Daniel actually the good guy in this
Yeah.
situation?
Which is a great.
It makes you think about the other side of, like, Johnny's side
Yeah.
of it, right? Like,
in these later, I'm assuming episodes, because in the first one, Johnny's the good guy. Like, come on.
yeah. Well, it's this new kid.
Obviously.
New kid comes to town.
Yeah.
Steals his girlfriend, steals
Yeah.
his friends, kicks his ass at a karate. Who is the real Karate Kid? Right?
I know, yeah.
As Barney Stinson would say, it's William Zabka.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an excellent point, and that's what made that show work so well. Is the movies are they're definitely told from Daniel and Mr. Miyagi's point of view, which sets up those guys as bad guys, and to be able to sit there and make you question, well, are they or aren't they? Then it's great. You're seeing that happen a lot. Like I think I was really weirded out when Star Wars changed it from like everybody's all about Jedis, boo, Sith are bad, to which one are you? You know, and then they turned it around. It's like, oh, are you?
Oh, you're jumping into like 8, 9 now.
Oh, I know. And same thing with Transformers. There was a thing where it was like Autobots are the good guys, Decepticons are the bad guys, and now it's like, well, are Decepticons really the bad guys, or were they just fighting for?
I'm gonna say Decepticons are still the bad guys because they were fucking shit up.
Sure, but I mean, all I'm saying is
they were committing murders to take over a planet to better the planet. Yeah. So it's just like, was Thanos the good guy or Thanos the bad guy?
That's a great question.
He was the bad guy. Come on.
He was the bad guy, yeah.
Sure. My point in saying that is creators are trying to use that kind of
trope,
divisiveness, that trope to kind of sell you on the nostalgia.
And that's the thing I wanted to jump in, how nostalgia starts to go down that path, that whole discussion, and how that whole... for definitely our generation and maybe even the generation ahead of us, nostalgia was so tied. Movies, shows, toys. And that's the interesting thing. That next generation where those things still exist, but to your point, they don't really happen in the same way.
No.
Like my 10-year-old does not want toys. My 10-year-old wants to have a tablet so that way he can go online and play games, watch videos.
Yeah.
Whereas our age, 10 years old, maybe we're getting out of it a little bit, but we still have toys. At least I did.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we did toy battles well into our teens until 17, 18.
I forgot about.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Speaking of nostalgia,
I know,
we should jump into those.
man.
Our toy battles were fucking legend. Just
Is that something
say.
I'd be admitting? Or no, I'm just kidding. 16, 17.
We would have been, yeah.
G.I.
Here's the thing: we're married, so I'm not looking to impress anyone.
Now you say, "Ouch!" One of my G.I. Joe. Okay, now you say, now you have to go over.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. We'll do a whole episode on it. What made it so great is very much like the stuff that we like. There was a whole political aspect to it.
Oh yeah,
and there was treaties going on. And then when you brought more people in,
Jesus Christ!
No. Well, because the thing is, we had to figure out a way to get the worlds to work. We had to figure out Transformers, GI Joes, sometimes Lego,
called Marvel Comics.
Oh, we had a great time. We'd spend most time just setting up, talking, and then we'd be done.
Buying up toys and products that remind us of our youth. Like
you just answered your question.
That's the point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those like, not saying that my mom would never let me have that or whatever. I mean, I had tons of toys, but you can get what you want when you want now, sort of thing. Like it's almost one of those instant gratification kind of deals, right? It's like I don't have to ask mom. I don't have to. I mean, you have to ask your wife, but.
Well, if you don't,
even if she says no,
you can
kind of like, well, I appreciate your concern and your opinion, but I'm still getting this damn.
It wasn't a hard no, right? I mean,
it
was like more of a I think you shouldn't, but
but it's my money and I'm going to spend it. Whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, also too the connectivity. Like I remember. Member berries. Speaking of remembering, being kids and like hearing about all these great stuff you hear like Japan or whatever, and it's like there's no way we could ever get that here because can't afford it. A and B, how do you even begin to order shit from overseas? Now it's click. And it's
the ease of access.
So it's like, and really now your hard part is paying retail price. Like that's the hard part, like because everything sells out so quickly now. They have it down to a science to be able to market these things to a point where they have, they command a giant fee later on. So I think that's a big factor too. Like you said, yes, we can do what we want to do from our childhood now within reason. Right? I don't know if I could afford it, but I wouldn't spend like $500+ on that frickin' HasLab Unicron that they crowdsourced for. Did you hear about this?
No.
It stands like 3 feet tall.
Did you hear about this? Do you know about that?
Do you know about this? Yes. Everybody knows who Unicron is?
Yes.
Okay. Unicron, if you don't know, go watch Transformers movie. It'll make a lot more sense. He's a transforming planet. Hasbro has now, they're really like, I mean, they own all the toys, so obviously they're going to capitalize on it. They're doing this thing where when they want to release something that they're not sure is going to be mass marketed, they're saying, all right, we're going to put this in a little HasLab feature. Here's what we're designing. If we get X amount of backers, we'll make it. and so they're more high end sort of things. So they did this thing. It's Unicron, and I do already have one, and he stands like I don't know, maybe a foot and a bit tall, so I feel like he's already pretty big. But this thing is freaking gigantic, and I think it takes like 3 hours to transform him. It's insane. It's insane. Like you have to transform him on a stand, or else he could break. Like there's no way you could physically do it by yourself.
Yeah, interesting.
You need assistance.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. But like,
but like you wouldn't pay $500
I
for
would
it.
pay, but apparently 8,000 or 10,000 plus backers did, right? So clearly there's a market there for it, right? To pay for those things.
How much did you pay for Unicron?
Pardon me?
How much did you pay?
Oh, not even. I don't even think I paid $100 for mine.
Oh, I actually thought you were going to say $100.
No, don't get me wrong. I spent some money.
I'm on that side. I would never even pay $100.
No, I've spent some money on some guys for sure. Like I have a masterpiece. We did an episode on toys on our last season. Shout out for that. Go take a look. I did spend a lot of money on that guy. The masterpiece, my Soundwave, probably $400.
Oh,
but because I had to import him. That's again what we're talking about, right? So I had to. Anyways, this whole thing.
Yeah.
Either way. I'll never do that again. That was a one-time thing for my collection. I think music. Well, we talked a little bit about music, but how bands will lean into certain nostalgic sounds. When I think of I'll give you an example. The Sheepdogs.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
They've got that kind of 70s groove that is very for the times.
Greta Van Fleet would be
Greta Van Fleet is another band. So there's a collection of bands. I'd even say maybe Jet. Even though they're not really
Jet
around anymore. But
there's another one.
So many.
They opened up for the Foo Fighters. But they kind of sound like a Rolling Stones Jet kind of.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Shoot.
Nice.
If Nikki was here, she'd know.
Yeah, I know the band you're talking about. I'm drawing off your blank
idea.
energy. That's what I'm doing.
It's not like the Strokes or the... No, it's not them.
But I do like the Strokes. They're great.
The Stokes.
And the Stokes.
now I want to figure it out.
Anyways, it's interesting to think of bands or musical acts that are drawing on the past energy and kind of repackaging it, if you will, for their audience today.
To a certain extent.
I mean, I think of the Sheepdogs a lot. Shout out to them. They're a great band, by the way. But just because they are very fixed in their sound. Like, I don't feel like they're trying to change it. They're like, well, no, we're good with this.
We
70s.
are this.
I'd say there's other bands that have done that too, though. You look at heavy metal, and like Metallica tried to veer away from that at one point, and that was a horrible record. And then, well, three records that weren't the greatest. Apparently. In popular review, I would say one of them is horrible. But then after that, they kind of just went, you know what, we're gonna do what we were doing back in the 80s.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Bands like Slayer that just never veered off that path. They've been playing the same kind of music since 1980. Whenever.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
And
Slayer's awesome. Yeah.
Just, I think recently had their final concert. They've
they're done.
Thrown in the hat. Yeah.
Oh wow.
But up until that point, every record was still that thrash speed metal. Nothing really changed with the vibe of it.
It's AC/DC.
I was going to say AC/DC or Motorhead. Another one I was thinking of. Motorhead. Like, they know their sound and that's it. But the difference between those bands and, say, the Sheepdogs, that was their start, or that was their bread and butter, if you will. So to go back to that, to capitalize, kind of sort of makes sense. Like, it's like, well, if this isn't working the way you want it, we know this worked. Well, let's go back to that. Kiss is a great example, right?
Oh yeah.
Kiss was like, well, fuck the makeup, and everyone's like, well, fuck you. So
well, they even did the disco hit, right?
Exactly, right. Which I'm not knocking. Like, I love pretty much all of Kiss's discography. I don't think anything they've done is really bad, but that's just a thing. Whereas when you think of like the Sheepdogs or Greta Van Fleet or Wolfmother, there's another band I was thinking of. Like, they're drawing those sounds for their they're trying to
emulate. Essentially trying to emulate an era.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I would say the songs and the songwriting is a little further,
a little bit more modern,
a little more current. Yeah,
sound
but
is that
emulating the vibe and the feeling of that era, that 70s rock hippie.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting though? Like we see it like across all genres. Like, you now have people doing it through hip hop now. They're trying to kind of capitalize on old school hip hop sounds,
like New Jack Swing thing. Or
yeah.
whatever.
And the thing is, it's always and again, I could be pointing out how I'm wrong on this, but it always seems to be the new bands trying to go and do that old sound, whereas the actual groups or artists that came from that sound, no, they're doing the new sound.
Yeah.
Usually. Not always.
Been there, done that
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Like Aerosmith pops in my head.
Yeah.
Like, Aerosmith every decade has had a new sound.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. They've never and Foos are the
I was
same
going to
way.
say I'd give that to the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
After a certain point, for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
They got to a certain point where I think it was like, hey, let's try something different. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately for them, what they did well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
kind of every album
They
they
changed
sort
that
of
little.
tweak tweak that or work on it, and it seems to work for them.
Man, imagine where they'd be if they just did Nirvana covers. Speaking of nostalgia, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I remember when Post Malone and Travis Barker
Mhm.
did that pandemic or concert from his house where they just covered Nirvana tunes. It was awesome.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible.
You were
I am
good.
not a huge Post Malone fan
No.
at all.
Not my jam, but I mean, like,
But that was
he clearly loves them.
and Travis Barker's.
He's amazing.
He can
right?
do fucking anything that cat.
Oh, I
man.
know. But like the fact that they did that, and I mean, like everybody at home could watch it and enjoy. If you're a Nirvana fan, if you're a Post Malone fan, or even if you're a freaking Blink-182 fan, I mean, you're gonna get something out of that. And I thought that was really cool that they kind of tapped into that nostalgia to create a really neat live show. Which
Yeah. Well, it's an example of nostalgia where likely part of the reason he got to where he was because of that. So for him, that's a huge nostalgia.
yeah, it's for him. It's like it's probably is everything, right?
Yeah.
For sure. That's a good point. Yeah, we can really use that stuff. Fashion's always trending. Yeah. Everyone can listen. I know we're dudes, and we're clearly the most fashionable.
Oh no, the whole bell
Guys in the
bottoms
room.
thing happened again in the
High-waist
mid-90s
jeans.
and
Yeah, striped socks is a thing. Certain
I
shoe
remember
styles.
I have a buddy who polyester leather jacket.
Yeah.
Not even leather jacket, like leather coat or blazer or whatever. Big collars.
Yeah.
And, it was the year 2000.
And
doing shit like that.
well,
right?
hey, you're the hipsters in, man.
Bowler hats.
Everyone
Nice.
dresses like hipsters with their funny.
Oh, this
gear.
is pre-hipster though.
Oh, is it
this
pre-hipster?
This,
Okay.
like I said, 2000s,
Oh yeah,
late
yeah.
90s. This
I
is
should go
pre-hipster.
goth again. That's what I need to do.
We need to what?
I want to go goth.
You should go
I
goth.
think
You should do
fingernails.
goth again.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You pulled off your goth look
Oh,
well
yeah, I could
back
do
in the
that.
day. Would you
Yeah.
do your hair long again?
I would try. Yeah.
Speaking of nostalgia, let's get nostalgic about Dave's hair. So if you don't,
Dave's hair.
if you
My
don't know,
hair.
Dave for the longest time, like ever since I met him in mid. late
Well,
20s.
no, I didn't grow my hair long until I started high school.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was high school. Yeah. Dave grew out his hair. He was down to like
My butt.
his butt,
Mhm.
and that's what he got. He was known as long-haired hippie Dave.
Yeah.
Oh man, the
forever.
first time I met him, I thought he was Jesus.
He had a whole thing. So
No offense to anybody out there who's down with the JC, but
no, it's whatever. So we just call him the dude.
Yeah,
We just call him the dude. You
Yeah.
know, that was it. And do you ever get nostalgic about your long hair? Like, do you ever
I do.
miss those days?
I do.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why I don't have long hair is because I worked in a powdered metal factory and I nearly burned half of it off.
Whoa.
See now, let's have a look at my head.
Speaking
And
of
I used to
nostalgia,
I used to have hair down to here,
Yeah.
right? In grade 7, and 8.
Yeah.
7,
so
7, and 8.
split class 7, 8.
No, I just didn't get through grade 7 the first time.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and I remember cutting it off because it started to do this little flippy do at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in Florida, and people kept commenting to my dad, "Oh, your daughter,"
Oh, you
and I was like, "Well, fuck this, no, that's not." Apparently, I look too much like a lady,
Yeah.
so that's not happening. But yeah, I miss hair in
I
in
miss-
general.
I miss having the hair in moments with it, but I also love that I don't have to go through all that response. Like even my hair now is quite scruffy and long, but as many can tell, I don't do much with
No.
it.
I remember though. I definitely remember there was a turning point when you started like really taking care of your hair when it was long, and I think you were noticeably getting frustrated
Yeah.
because it was like every morning he's got to deal with it, and it's like, oh.
Humidity.
And I'm thinking like, who
Humidity.
cares? Like whatever, it's just your hair. It's like, dude, you have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Humidity.
do
Like-
the ponies or the pigtails or?
I would sometimes do
Sometimes.
it. Yeah.
Screw
if
around,
we were
yeah.
about to go run or do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was biking, I'd often throw it back. Yeah.
No. Those
man buns.
Like,
yeah, not so much that level. I
but
just
your
tie it
hair is
back.
so nostalgic. Like, people now still like remember you that way. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
haven't had your long hair in like 15 years, like maybe
Nope.
longer.
Longer because just after I finished college. So yeah, 2002.
I don't know what it was. But
Almost
anyway,
20 years.
so I think it's crazy that people still think of you that way. And I was like, oh, so much has happened since then. But that's nostalgia, baby. That's what it's
Okay,
all
one
about.
more
That
piece
is
of
true. One more piece of nostalgic element in pop culture going on right now. WandaVision.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, I know you haven't seen it, but maybe Dave, get a life. Get a life and watch TV.
Yeah, God, don't do stuff.
I know. Maybe the most, I don't want to say egregious, but homaging when it comes to nostalgia. Like, every single episode, with the exception of the last few, takes place in a previous generation's sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? So all of those elements are dripping in nostalgia. And then you have the fact that it's a Marvel project, which has all of those elements. And then you have the other subversive layers of the nostalgia they're trying to stick in on top of all of that. Like, it's like you don't get it. If you're a fan of the genre of the projects that they're involved in, you can't help but be nostalgically influenced.
Oh no, it made me want to go back and rewatch Bewitched. That's for sure.
There you go. Right?
100%.
Oh, nice.
Family Ties.
Oh, I love me
me
some Bewitched.
Family
yeah.
Ties. That was
Family Ties.
I love
yeah,
that show.
yeah.
Yeah, Michael J.
That was a
Fox, my hero. For
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's funny because I find certain things nostalgic that were already nostalgic. I'm sure we all had, or most of us had TBS
Oh, yeah.
when we were children. So you had Bewitched in the morning, you had the Munsters after school,
Yeah.
or Addams Family, right? And those were already nostalgic things for our parents.
They were
Yeah.
reruns on reruns.
Yeah, right. And I think it was like, oh yeah, why didn't they like do a Munsters movie?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
know,
know.
fuck the Addams Family.
No, I
They've
don't
done
love
the
the Addams
Addams
Family,
Family,
but
but they've done it
I'd
to
rather
death.
have Monsters.
Yeah.
You've done it to death, right? Why not?
I know.
Reboot the Munsters.
because we don't have Frank Gwynn anymore. That's why.
Oh, Fred Gwynn.
Oh, Fred Gwynn. Sorry. Yeah.
Or probably any of them. I'm sure.
I think Eddie Munster's still alive, but I think the rest of them are no longer.
Butch something or other. I can't
Yeah.
remember what his name
Yeah.
was. But yeah.
I was a huge fan of that
Oh
show.
no! You know who might still be alive? Al Lewis.
Oh,
Grandpa Munster.
Grandpa, what?
We're
doing a podcast
I
right
could
now, so-
100% be wrong. Obviously, he was like 98 years old, but
Yeah.
last time I looked it up, I'm pretty sure he wasn't dead yet.
Nice.
That is very interesting that of all the nostalgia projects that are happening right now, they've not touched the Munsters in any way.
No,
Like, there's been nothing.
they did something back in the 90s, or
Yeah.
it was before Fred Gwynn died,
Okay.
and it was colorized and whatnot. It was more of like a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, yes, I think I know what you're talking about. But I mean,
But I don't think they've done anything since. I mean, again, could be completely wrong.
well, your case in point, every couple of years we get something new Addams Family related, which is
Mhm.
great. But it's interesting that they don't. In fact, that was the one thing. Spoiler alert, Dave. One thing about WandaVision that kind of got me was when they did the whole Agatha All Along video, little music video, which was a total homage to the Munsters, the way it was done and everything like that. It's the first time I've seen in a long time any sort of kind of reference.
The way they played
them
her
in the
character itself was an homage to Wizard of Oz.
It was, yeah, very
Right.
much, yeah.
She got squished by a house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
She killed a dog,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Stuff like
nice.
that, right?
Yeah.
She's a witch.
Yeah, so
so on
much.
and so forth.
Jeez. Man, I'm getting nostalgic
that
about
whole
this
show
episode.
itself was kind of a Wizard of Ozzy sort of thing. Right?
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's, man, what a great show that is, too. WandaVision. I love it.
Excellent.
Excellent
Wonderful.
stuff.
Nice.
Dave, get on it. Maybe we should just do an episode where we just berate Dave for all the stuff he hasn't watched yet. I think we should definitely do that.
There is a
Let us
lot
know in the
that
comments
I've
who
not
did that.
watched.
We give him a certain amount of time, and if that passes, then we just spoil it for him. It's called Spoil It for Dave.
Spoil it for Dave. There you go. Look at that.
I'm okay with that.
Writing episodes on air, folks. And you know what? I can't wait in I don't know, a year, 2 years when we're famous from podcasting. We'll come back and touch on this nostalgic episode and get nostalgic about it.
And you'll still be
That'll
like,
be nice.
Dave, have you watched those shows?
For sure.
No.
All these years pass by. No. Yeah. So, you out there watching or listening, let us know what you're nostalgic about. What are the projects you're excited for? What things that you bring you back to your past? Are the things that we missed that you want to talk about? I know I should have mentioned snap bracelets. That was a thing. That's apparently a thing again.
90s pornography.
Oh,
It's never coming back. But irony would be that people that were our age in the 90s were saying 70s pornography.
Right? Right? I don't know how it goes down nowadays, but I miss the funny scripts and the pointless stories.
Do people even pay attention that long? I don't even know.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, whatever. Yes.
Okay, so I was the weird guy who paid more attention to how horrible the storyline was.
Did you watch full-on porn movies, AJ, from front to back? Were you engaged in the storyline? Did you want to see the pizza delivery guy deliver the pizza?
Oh, man, there's some good ones.
There's a whole new episode just
somebody
on
was
this alone.
paid. Somebody was paid to write this.
And somebody
thought it was good.
Someone aspiring to be a fucking famous writer out there is like,
and that's got to be the hard part. That's probably the hardest part. Like, these people are paid to have sex. That's the easy part. This guy was paid to try and write a storyline around people having sex and parodies. The parodies.
Okay. So here's what's gonna happen. Okay. So here's what's gonna happen. Okay. So like he's going to come in here and he's gonna tell you about this problem that he's having, and you're gonna just like expose your shoulder. Okay. Just like the conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's gonna enter you. What?
Pizza. We need pizza. Pizza's got to be involved.
I know. Yeah, nostalgic about porn. Well, there's a note to wrap
nice
up
way
on.
to end
There
it.
we go. Yeah. Anyways, back to wrapping up here.
Oh man!
Wow.
Nice.
Are you gonna wrap it up now, Chris? Are you gonna wrap it?
Someone's got to
You're
wrap
wrapping it up.
Otherwise, we're gonna make a giant
Twice?
mess all over the place.
Oh.
Right. So, anyways, wrapping up. Whatever you're nostalgic for, porn or otherwise, let us know. We want to talk about this. We want to keep the conversation going and just talk about all the things that make us get all googly-eyed about our past and things like that. So, on that note, I just want to say thanks, everybody, for paying attention to us and watching us do our thing. We really appreciate it. If you're out there and you're feeling not so great, we want you to know you matter. You mean a lot, not just to us, but the people in your life. So don't be afraid to reach out to whomever that might be if you're going through things that are going on in your head. And until next time, I've been Harvey.
I'm Dave.
Brown chicken, brown cow. I'm AJ.
And if you haven't figured it out by now, you've just been sarcastically distracted. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Bye now.